360 olive oil is a popular choice for people wanting to activate their full potential. Improved sleep, faster recovery and more energy are just a few of the amazing comments received from our customers who take a spoonful a day. Make C60 oil a part of your daily routine and see what it can do for you. Activate your potential today at thec60company.com.
Another of the elements of this plan for humanity, again, as I've been pointing out for a long time, is to divide young from old, to create a division between young people and old people as part of this whole divide and rule strategy. See, the idea is to isolate the young from any form of information that would give them another perspective on reality. And one potential alternative means of information, if you like, are older people who have lived a long time and been there, done that, and seen it. For instance, if you are a young person today in Britain, you have not experienced anything but membership of the European Union. It's all you've ever known. And so there's another perspective missing, which is experiencing life when we weren't in the European Union. And you have to be of a certain age to have done that. And this is the reason so many older people voted for Brexit, because they had a radar, they had a comparison of before and after. And the whole Brexit vote was presented on one level as the old imposing their will on the young. And, you know, it is true, as the saying goes, that there's no fool like an old fool. Because if you've lived a long life and learned nothing, then that's pretty foolish. But there are enormous numbers of older people who are not foolish. They are people who've observed the world and learned from what they've seen. And there's enormous amount of wisdom among older people because of the longevity. And eventually younger people will get that wisdom if they use their experience properly as a result of their longevity. But the idea is to, and it's not just for this reason, but this is one of them, to divide young and old and to prevent that exchange going on because, oh, you don't listen to old people. And there's no better example of this old people, young people attempted division than the hoax of human-caused climate change. Because the whole thing is being presented as old people have created the problem for us young people, and they're putting our future at risk by bringing the planet to the brink of disaster, which of course is a load of old nonsense. We're not at the brink of disaster in terms of climate change at all. It's a hoax. But since when did truth and reality play any part in the cult agenda? So here we have this week another story that just confirms and is another strand in this whole story that I've been talking about. My grandma is Old Environmental Pig, German broadcaster in hot water over brazen children's song. And this is how the story goes. A German public broadcaster has decided to make a choir of young girls sing a very modern, quote, eco-friendly grandma-bashing song with a clear Greta Thunberg twist. What could possibly go wrong, the article asks. The German regional broadcaster WDR proudly presented a new video featuring the channel's all-girl children's choir. They can sing and they can be naughty, read the announcement published on the WDR2 Facebook page. A minute-and-a-half footage demonstrated some 36 young girls happily singing a remake of a German humorous song from the 1920s. Its text was updated to match the trends of 2019, lambasting an imaginary grandma for allegedly excessive fuel burn rate and undue taste for meat. The song has a refrain calling the unfortunate grandma an old environmental pig, and features such unchildish lines as, "My grandma drove a Range Rover to a doctor and ran over 2 grandpas." The song ends with children, suddenly as grave as a judge, speaking in the voice of the teen climate change speaker Greta Thunberg, for it is her, warning the grown-ups that they will not let you get away with this. See that again, it's you, old people. We will not let you get away with this. Get away with what? Get away with what the system's told us you've done. Exactly. I feel sorry for young people today so much because of the extraordinary levels of perceptual programming that they've been subjected to through the schools and through the universities, all systematic. And round of applause for those young people who've been through it and seen through it. Unfortunately, a lot of them have not, and thus they campaign for their own freedom to be taken away for the rest of their lives. It's quite absolutely, not even quite, it's absolutely tragic. So what you have is certain groups that the cult wants to undermine being targeted in a very, very calculated way. So you target old people because, first of all, you don't want the young to listen to older people who might give them a different perspective. But it also goes deeper than that, because what they want in the end is that people get to a certain age and then take a suicide pill. And oh, that David Icke, he's mad. He says they're going to take a suicide. Well, it's actually been spoken of by cult insiders, and they've called it the demise pill. And to reach that point, you have to get a mentality, especially among younger people, that is what needs to happen. Older people, they've got jobs and they're old and we're young and we've not got jobs, so we should have the jobs and all that stuff, all this manipulation of perception that goes along with it. And this whole move towards euthanasia and legalizing euthanasia, while it's being sold on the idea that people should have the right to end their life if they want, it's actually a stepping stone, the totalitarian tiptoe, to this point where people reach a certain age and then have to go. Because, see, humans to the cult are just farm animals. They're there to be used while they are, quote, productive. And then once they're no longer productive, what we call retirement, well, they are then perceived as a drain. You've made contribution all your life, but in this little bit before you leave us, you're not making a contribution, and that's not good for us because you're now taking something back for what you've given. So therefore, you've got to go. And of course, with AI taking over on a vast scale in terms of jobs, then they need even less humans from their point of view. And so that's another level of this demonization of old people. But there's other groups too that are being targeted in in the same way for different reasons, but for benefit of the cult agenda. And one of them is white people, particularly white men, and indeed men in general. And so you know when there's a scam going on, when people talk about inclusivity and they talk about being anti-racist, when what they mean is you cannot say this about every other racial group and every other religious group, but this racial group and this religious group you can say what you like about. Now that's not anti-racism, that is an agenda. So you can't say anything about black people, about brown people, about Muslims, and so on, without getting the hate speech comeback. But say what you bloody like about white people and Christianity, and it's not a problem. So that tells you it's this whole thing about inclusivity and anti-racism. It's all a load of crap. Nothing to do with that at all. It's an agenda. And what is the goal of this cult is to transform Western society. Now, the major racial group in Western society is white people. And so if you're going to transform Western society, you have to target the main racial group. To do it, you have to. And that's what this is about. And also, Christianity, I mean, I'm not a Christian, I'm not religious at all in terms of bricks and mortar religion, not religious at all. But indeed, never mind the bricks and mortar, I'm just not religious. But again, if we're going to be mature and we're going to look at this dispassionately, so we get the picture without having our perceptions filtered and distorted by preconceived idea, then we need to look at this whole situation where you can't say anything about Islam, you can't say anything about Judaism, etc., etc. But you can say what you bloody like about Christianity. It's because if you look at Western society, even though the majority are not Christian, the Christian culture, if you like, that's developed over the centuries is fundamentally ingrained in the culture of Western civilization. And so if you want to transform Western society, you've not just got to target the main racial group, you've got to target the main, not just religious group, but the main source of the culture, which is Christianity overwhelmingly. And this is why you can say what you like about them while you are lambasted and abused and called a Nazi and a bigot if you say anything about anyone else. And the kind of irony is that the biggest bashers of white people are white, woke virtue signalers. And I speak as someone who wouldn't care less, doesn't care less, if I'm in a white body, a black body, a brown body, or any other kind of body. For me, from my perspective, it's just a vehicle for my consciousness to experience this range of frequencies we call the world. It's the ultimate non-racist philosophy. It sees racism and judging someone by the nature of their body to be utterly ludicrous. It's like judging people by their spacesuit or their car. The body's just a vehicle. But again, if we're going to be dispassionate and look at this from an unbiased, unfiltered point of view, then it's very clear that the white race and Christianity are being targeted for other reasons, but absolutely fundamentally for the reasons I've just described. And so when you're talking about virtue signalers, well, one name comes to mind immediately, and that's Michael Moore, the American filmmaker who's made a series of documentaries, as he calls them, which have all been pushing the cult agenda. I'm not saying that because he's doing it knowingly. I wouldn't give him that intelligence, but his line in the documentaries, and his line every time he opens his mouth, is pushing this cult agenda, and here he is again. Michael Moore, white people are not good people. You should be afraid of white people. So let's just rephrase that and ask the question, what would have been the response had Moore said this? Black people are not good people. You should be afraid of black people. Muslim people are not good people. You should be afraid of Muslim people. Jewish people are not good people. You should be afraid of Jewish people. Moore's career would have been over in an instant. Kaput, finished. What happened when he attacks white people like that? Nothing. This is what I mean by it's an agenda and not a genuine desire for the end of racial discrimination, because of course he's being discriminatory against white people. Filmmaker Michael Moore told Rolling Stone, white people are not good people and that you should be afraid of white people. During an interview on the Useful Idiot, cool, how appropriate, podcast, Moore said that people should cross the street if they see 3 white men approaching them because at least 2 voted for Trump. 2/3 of all white guys voted for Trump. That means anytime you see 3 white guys walking at you, down the street towards you, 2 of them voted for Trump. You need to move over to the other sidewalk because these are not good people that are walking towards you. You should be afraid of them. I refuse to participate in post-racial America, he added. Good virtue signaling, Michael. Well done you. I refuse to say because we elected Obama that suddenly that means everything is okay. White people are not changed. And there's 2 kinds of white people. There's, from their point of view, there are those he's talked about you should cross the street to avoid. And there are those that put their head down, get on their knees and beg for forgiveness. And they're not too bad from their point of view. They're kind of marginally acceptable. And of course, it's all nonsense. And what the man can't see, because the woke mentality has no capacity for self-awareness or self-assessment, that what he's saying is stunningly racist while claiming to be anti-racist. And I don't know how this mentality cleans its teeth in the morning or combs its hair, because it clearly never, ever looks in a mirror. And here's a continuation of the same theme. This is a Jewish candidate for running for senator called Richard Fochman. And this is the headline. Jewish senatorial candidate Richard Fochman gloats about white men committing suicide. This is a bloke who stood up at this event, and he was caught on one of these phone cameras by a member of the audience. And he said that he'd heard that there was an alarming spike in suicides among white males, and basically that should be celebrated. But he said, I'm not sure I should say that in public, or worse to that effect. Well, fortunately, someone did catch him on camera, so we did see what he said. And it gave away this whole agenda to destroy white people. When it came out, Trump tweeted the question, "What kind of animal is this?" And so this is where we are with this targeting of specific groups for a specific end. And the idea, see, I have a simple philosophy. Everyone should be treated the same. And instead of looking at people as a group based on their skin type or religion, you look at individual behavior, irrespective of skin type and religion. It's ever so simple. I mean, it's not bloody brain science, is it? You treat everyone the same based on their behavior. You don't say, this guy's a terrorist because of his skin colour. Probably a lovely bloke. And you don't say, oh, you can't say anything about this person because of his skin colour, when he might be a psychopath. But if you're going to divide and rule, and you're going to censor exposure of the psychopaths, then you have to get a situation where you get everyone, A, to judge people by their group, and to defend those groups and the behavior of individuals within those groups by making the whole group a protected species. And this is what's happening, and it's so bloody clear. And ironically, it's being imposed by the woke mentality, which thinks of itself as being anti-racist and inclusive.